Hi, and welcome to the March 16th Ampleforth office hours, brought to you today by Positive Rebasing Cycles. Hooray for good moods. Great to catch up with everybody. Let's dive right into it before we, as always, get to the AMA with the broader core team. Three big things to highlight in terms of highlights from the Ampleforth ecosystem over the past couple of weeks. First and foremost, PNG dual rewards are now live on Pangolin. Been really great to see a flurry of positive activity there in a short window already. Ample has already cracked the top 20 of more than 200 assets listed there in total value locked, as well as the top 15 in volume, and both numbers are climbing. So great to see continued momentum happening for Ampleforth in the Avalanche ecosystem. On that note, with WAMPL, there are a number of big integrations coming on both the L1 and L2 fronts in the coming weeks. Look out for Avalanche, Polygon, Moonbeam, and a number of others. We'll be sharing news on all of our core channels from Discord, Telegram, and Twitter, so keep an eye out. Lots of really exciting things happening here. Also worth noting, with WAMPL, there's a lot, lower of a barrier for centralized exchange integration. So that's certainly a topic worth monitoring too. So exciting times here. And then finally, in terms of the Ample utility era that we've really been focused on and looking at in recent months, really excited to see some milestones happening, within this community and a lot of new players coming in. A couple of just quick shout outs. Elastic Swap is going to be launching on Avalanche and Ethereum in the next month or so. The token launch was today, so great to see that momentum and the Ample tie-in there. Similarly, lots of great things happening with Deviant DAO, PRL1 and Mooncake, Hourglass, and many more. For those of you in attendance who are working directly with these projects and want to collaborate, with this community and the core team more directly on co-marketing efforts, we are always here and always happy to chat. AMPLitheater at ampleforth.org is the best place to reach us, or certainly on Discord, you know where to find us. One other call out before we get into the crux of the discussion. Today is March 16th, and beyond being one day before St. Patrick's Day, it marks 1 month from the fourth DAO reclamation happening, which is going to be April 16th. The minting process is also going to be taking place as soon as April, so lots happening on that front as well. With that, let's turn things over to Simon and the broader core team and ask us anything.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks, Matt. I'd actually, two things on the Elastic, the swap guys. You should check out their Discord or their Twitter to learn a little bit more from them. And we'll also make mention of EFI, Solomon, not sure how to pronounce it, but the first vault, the first Ampleforth vault, I think it's going live extremely soon if it isn't exactly live right now. But that's something to keep an eye on as well. That's built by the community. There's a few core community members who were spearheading that effort, just like they were on Hourglass and on a few others as well. So keep an eye out for those two projects and follow everyone's Twitter so you can keep a tighter grip on what's happening in the Elastic finance space, which is ever growing. Let's handle questions the way we always do. I'll flip back and forth from the text-based questions and I'll read those out. Those are always fun. But if you have anything to add or anything you want to share, just raise your hand here and we will go ahead and give you preference over anyone who's typing those questions in. So I'll go ahead and check the chat and see what kind of questions we're looking at. Not a ton pouring in actually, which is fine. I think we've had a pretty exciting couple of weeks. If you look at what's coming up though, there's always so much for us to chat about. It might make sense for us to give a quick synopsis of what's happening or timeline on the governance front. Not to put you on the spot, and I'm happy to do it, Brandon, but do you want to talk a little bit about Forth and the kind of exciting timeline that we're facing here?
Yeah, I was just about to do that. So thanks for the lead up, Simon. As Matt said, the fourth reclamation period is going to start basically a month from today on April 16th. And I sort of view that point as the first seeding point and kind of the launch of the fourth DAO, because that's the first time where it will have assets under management that you can use and deploy for productive means. And then the first mint operation, because remember, Forth has a protocol limited inflation of 2% per year. That first mint operation can only happen once a year, and that can happen as early as April 1st if we so chose. Now, it doesn't have to to occur. If people voted to mint 0 or not vote to mint at all, then it does need to. But that's coming up soon, within a couple of weeks, and then the reclamation is going to happen a month from now. And all told, when we get to that point, on that day, the fourth DAO will essentially be a top 40 DAO by assets under management. And so I think a lot of people still don't realize that this is, fourth is not going to be just a governance token. It's also going to be a DAO token and control those assets as well as some other ecosystem platforms like the upcoming stablecoin that's in development. So the everything around the fourth DAO is starting to get real pretty fast, and so it's going to be a really exciting, I think, point in time for us as a community to rally around. And I know that a lot of conversation has been going on for a while already about what to do with these assets. And I know that there's also a community mural board to track some ideas. And so I think that's really cool to see. I think a lot of people are sort of on the same page about wanting to use these assets productively to sort of foster and grow the ecosystem the best way we can. So yeah, definitely keep an ear to the ground and an eye out for those actions. I think it's going to be really exciting to watch.
Awesome. Thanks, Brandon. I want to put you on the spot again. I'm also happy to give the walkthrough, but it's great if you do it. When the fourth comes to life, and there have been a number of snapshot votes and other votes, it always seems, although we definitely share the information and you can look in, it's available as well, you can figure out how to vote or how to delegate. You just want to give a quick soundbite on how to do that so that we can point people to that, because as they get drawn in by the different votes and events that happen, we obviously never want anyone to miss out on their opportunity to either vote themselves or to delegate.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. So I'd say, first of all, if you're looking for a high level overview of how we approach governance right now within the project, go to ampleforth.org/governance. And at a high level, the way it works is, ideas start in a very sort of abstract space of just conversations across any platform. And then there's a sequence of increasing levels of consensus within the community that ultimately ends up with a binding on-chain vote, right? So the protocol, since it's owned by the governance system, the protocol can only be changed by the governance system, and so the governance is in control of the protocol. In order to vote, right, you need to delegate your fourth tokens so that they can be used to unlock the voting power, as Simon mentioned. So you can do that by delegating to yourself. The easiest way is through the with tally interface. I know that Jeremy Guzman has released a public guide about how to delegate to yourself too. So Simon, maybe we can post the link for that somewhere as well for people to reference.
Will do.
So I think if you go to withtally.org, I think that's the URL, and then click on the Ampleforth governance page. I think that's the easiest, most straightforward way to delegate to yourself or to someone else.
Cool.
If there's no other questions, I see some misunderstandings around delegation too. Delegation is something that you only really need to do once, right? So delegation works address to address. So if you acquire more fourth tokens or send some fourth tokens, you never need to redelegate unless you want to delegate to someone else or stop delegating. So it's a one-time activity.
That's right. And one of the best resources, and I'm happy to see Ample Tools here, one of the best roll up just one single pane where you can see so many things happening with Ample or link out to different things is actually at the Ample Tools website. So ampletools.com is a great place to go. If you're ever needing links and you can't find them quickly, there's an extremely high chance that it's there. Cool. There are a bunch of questions coming in now, so let's get into those. M09 asked, curious to know about the original Ample timeline on the website. With Elastic Swap releasing the token now and protocol in May, can it be safely assumed that Elastic Swap will take the Elastic AMM premise originally highlighted in the roadmap moving forward?
I'm happy to take this. Yeah, so the original Elastic Finance kind of painted a picture of a broader Ample ecosystem. This is kind of a way back. And for sure, AMMs that natively support kind of rebasing assets is part of that picture. But I would say that we need basically to update the roadmap and paint a more obvious picture of what is being done with Ample as kind of an asset. And I tried to kind of outline this in the durability report, but I think maybe a graphic would help more with it. I think kind of what we sought to do was to create a durable unit of account, and we imagined a great number of kind of use cases for this, but now it's really starting to crystallize into the use case of lending, and then the creation of derivatives, and then the use of those derivatives as safe asset collateral for the issuer of a stablecoin. So that's kind of the more linear path of development from unit of account to stablecoin. And then, of course, there's a constellation of ecosystem-like developments around it that kind of support this economy around rebasing tokens. And we're just kind of surprised and happy by initiatives like Elastic Swap, and as Brandon mentioned, a number of others that are emerging around this kind of ecosystem.
Yeah, that's, I think, one of the key things to highlight in addition to our own roadmap with the website updates that we have coming. Good call out on maybe a new timeline, that an image that's easier to track than the durability report. But there are a number of projects popping up. You can look at PRL's Discord. They've been talking a little bit about it in Elastic AMM. Elastic Swap, which is exciting and going live really shortly here with their token launch today. That's another one. But the key thing to call out there is as Ample enters this utility era, it makes a lot more sense for the community and other projects that are not maybe from this core contributor group to go live. And there's no limit to how many can be created. We're glad that there isn't, because you can see how many different AMMs exist and how many different lending platforms exist. And those that take this elastic finance, which it adds a ton of different functionality and different ways you can use and interact with assets that you haven't been able to before, the better. So we're thrilled to see that. Couple more questions here. So Carpe Diem, thanks for the question here when you asked, what is the current state of vote for the Sigmoid AIP? That's AIP 5 for those that track it. Any updates since last week on the boosted pool?
Sure. So first on the AIP 5. So we went through the signaling phase on Snapshot, and that passed unanimously by all the voters involved. And so now the next step is to create the on-chain proposal that would, if passed, result in the actual implementation being conducted of the protocol code itself. So that is in the final stages of being put together. We're just doing some final testing, but I expect it to go live within a couple of days, barring anything that's unforeseen. So that should be happening really soon. That would follow the normal guidelines of the 1 day delay period to allow people to move around their voting tokens or delegate if they need to. And then the voting period of, I think, 3 days. And then, of course, there's the 2-day time lock before any change can be enacted on chain. So that should be happening very soon. And then, update on the balancer boost pools. So I think the implementation is pretty much done. It's been also looked over by some core engineers at the balancer group. And so I think we're just trying to organize getting these pools plugged into aggregators like 1inch, so they'll be usable when they're launched. But we don't expect any other development blockers there. It's more just for better or worse, bureaucracy of DeFi that we need to go through to get these out the door and usable.
Cool. Kent55 asked, will the target keep increasing, or is there any plan to change the 5% equilibrium range? Those are kind of two questions, Brandon, maybe address them separately, and the mechanism for how to make those changes, I think, is nice to mention as well.
Sure. So those are two different mechanics that do interact with each other. The 5% equilibrium range, that's the easiest one to cover. I think that it's actually going away with the sigmoid curve, assuming that it goes through, because the curve itself is more has a greater degree of freedom in how it's configured, and so I don't think that there's a plan to have the equilibrium range in there as well. That would be, if it does stay in, it'd be part of governance to decide. In terms of the price target always increasing, the price target is determined by the input that comes through the CPI oracle. So as long as the measure of inflation that's used continues to increase, then the price target of AMPL will increase as well. But of course, if the measure goes down, then the price target of AMPL can also go down. We just haven't seen it happen. It's not likely to happen because central banks usually try everything possible to avoid deflationary situations. That's one reason why they target a small positive inflation, is to avoid any deflation at all. And so expect that to. Also, the protocol, what it does is it averages the last 3 months of the CPI data. And so because it's gone up so much recently, I think we haven't seen the full effect of the increase in the PCE measure in the protocol itself. The smoothing will sort of finish over that three month sliding window. And so I think it can still increase from where it is based off of world activity.
That's right. And this might not catch on, but when you think about deflationary monies, if you call them that, like a gold-backed money or a Bitcoin, those are maybe just like a little too cold. And then when you think about fiat monies and the consistent printing, those are maybe just a little bit too hot. And the hope is that being able to be elastic, we can keep things just right. But yeah, keep an eye on those targets in the inflating piece. And don't forget that the upcoming AMPL-backed stablecoin will also be inflation resistant. So it's really interesting to think about what that will do to the base value of that. Okay, so next couple questions. Nestor was asking about the status of the website and also the documentation that you were working on, Evan. That's like a Matt, Evan, and myself question. I think things are going along really smoothly. We have a few things like a fourth coming up. There's so many. Everyone knows what these timeline events are. Releasing some of these things, the goal is to sort of do so along with some event that is notable. And so we have a few of those coming up. Some of the fourth ones to look at. If we're going to say timeline, we can't say directly, but I would say the best thing to keep an eye on is maybe coinciding with some of the upcoming news. Evan, anything to add to that?
No, I think that about covers it. We've been working on it. It is kind of restructured already. It definitely features kind of more the ability to use AMPL. So it's kind of like set up so it's like you get AMPL and you can use AMPL, and it paints a picture of what's coming next. But to Simon's point, we might want to kind of just time the update with a different event.
Cool.
Or an upcoming event.
Yeah. Cat55 asked if there was any work being done on WAMPL. He said, I feel we launched with the WAMPL, but haven't really integrated it on any platforms. One of the cool things Matt covered in the intro, and this should be in the slides in the recording, you can go back and take a peek at it, is there's really two pillars of places where WAMPL can help. There's centralized integrations and decentralized integrations. And Matt outlined a little bit of a plan on what's to come on the decentralized integration front. So take a peek at that. I think that'll give you some good insights. But the WAMPL broadening the reach and the integration of AMPL and the Ampleverse into other places, that's the goal, and it's definitely well underway. Nestor said, Brandon, great talk on Dex Guru. He said, is there a schedule of podcasts you all will appear on in the future? I could handle that. I'd say there's no firm schedule. There's a bunch of opportunities that we come up and we take advantage of when we can. If you guys know anyone who you think would be a good interviewer or offer an interesting podcast, we're always welcoming introductions and happy to have someone from the core contributors here hop on there. But Brandon, if you had any feedback for that question, go ahead.
Thanks. Glad you were able to yeah, I think we'll just take any good opportunities that we can. So if you know anyone, definitely send them our way.
That's right. We might even revisit some of the better ones that we've done because some time has passed since. But if you check out the Ampleforth YouTube channel where you'll be able to find this recording, there's a playlist of some of the better interviews that we've had, and those are always worth checking out. Yeah, it looks like that was the questions for today. I would actually like to take a minute because we have a lot of the core community members here. Solomon, not to put you on the spot, but if there's anything you wanted to share about the E5 project in the Elastic Vaults, that would be nice. And anyone else who's working on anything, I see a lot of the Hourglass guys here. You guys can always take a minute if you wanted to share any updates or anything that you guys have happening. And if not, I think we'll be good to wrap. Cool. Solomon, one sec.
Can you hear me?
Yep, good to go.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, I just wanted to say, thank you to the Ampleforth community so far with the Elastic Vault and, what we're doing. We've seen a lot of people, sort of rally around this. We've been working on it for a while, from conception to what it is today. I think it's been about, I want to say, a year and some change. So we have so March 18th will be the snapshot for everybody who's participating in that with the KMPL token. And then after that, I think a couple of days will allow people to sort of add the liquidity for the EFI token and ETH. And then after that's done, the launch will happen. So I think we're still going to have a Twitter space for that. I do not know the exact date that will be, but once that happens, obviously we'll make any announcements. And so yeah, it's been a crazy year and a half, but I really appreciate the Ampleforth community and everybody who has supported us. So
cool. Yeah, thanks. And just a note that's Hourglass and the EFI project as well. These are just community initiatives. They're not necessarily backed in any way by Ampleforth, but just folks that saw an area to build on Ample in an area where they wanted to add something and they went for it. And Solomon, just really quick, just explain what it is. It's a vault, right? So it's a mechanism. You want to just give a quick overview of what you guys attempted to build? I think that was the one thing that maybe.
Yeah, absolutely. So the Elastic Vault, and the simple value proposition is we're allowing Ampleforth holders a simple way to hedge against Ampleforth's negative rebase states and potentially earn a yield while doing that. And the yield is in the form of the EFI token, and that's the ticker sign is EEFI. And so in addition to, because we sort of, obviously everybody lived through DeFi summer 2020, and if you didn't know, we did that. The Ampleforth community did that, not any other project that's out there. And so one of the downsides, obviously, was after the euphorias, we had, the negative rebase experiences. So out of that is when the conversation started with the AmpleSense DAO in terms of how can we do something, because we heard a lot of feedback from the community. They wanted something around, protecting against negative rebase. So out of that came the idea for the Elastic Vault. And so this EFI token, which is a yield, we just call it the yield token, is what essentially allows people to earn this potential yield during these negative rebase states. And so anybody can go to efi.finance, docs.efi.finance, and that's EFI with 2 E's. You can go there to read the Git book on how all this works. Everything's been documented. The code's been audited, checked out, all that good stuff. So yeah, it's all out there. It's very easy to understand, and yeah, we're excited to see this finally out.
Cool. Thanks, Solomon. And then, yeah, man. And then GS, anything happening with Hourglass you wanted to share with everybody?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thanks for having me on, and thanks, Solomon, for giving that a bit about the E5 stuff. Always good to hear. Yeah, in terms of the hourglass stuff, so I guess for anyone who's new, like we started this back at the Chainlink Hackathon in the fall. I see Sanamber is here. He was actually the one who sort of started it and got us all sort of together to work on it. Back when we did the hackathon, it was sort of just like an idea, and like we didn't really know where we'd go with it. At a high level, what we did is we used the button tranche contracts that PRL has worked on, and we sort of saw like ways to put different assets together to create new derivative assets that perform differently depending on how Ample performed. And at the time, it was sort of just like a cool thing that we're just like, oh, like we've created like a new asset, right? And I think what's happened over the last couple of months is we've sort of like come to realize like other like use cases for it. So I guess one plug for it is a lot of the stuff that we talked about earlier on the call with respect to the fourth DAO, right? So if I'm not sure how many people have seen, but we have a proposal up on the fourth forum for using the Hourglass contracts as a way for the fourth DAO to use a lot of that, use a lot of those assets under management without having to dump the tokens, I guess, on the market, for one thing. It could also just be used as a way to avoid having to inflate the token, the DAO token, right? So Fourth has the optional 2% per year, but our contracts will allow the DAO to borrow against its assets under management in order to promote whatever activities that the DAO wants to, right? So that's one use case that we can that we've sort of found that we think will add like a lot of value to the space. So yeah, since we've like come a long way with sort of the evolution of it, we're working really closely with Manny from PRL to sort of like get some of the details, I guess, sorted out for that vision and roadmap. So we'll be sharing a lot of those details once we have that sorted out. But in the meantime, it'd be really good to see community's feedback on the proposal we've made for the fourth DAO, for example. So that post outlines exactly sort of like how the contracts work and whatnot. So yeah, would appreciate. I think we've gotten some feedback already, but for anyone who hasn't, would love to hear what the community has to say for that.
For sure. That was a really nice high effort post, by the way. The graphic.
Yeah,
I really appreciate
I've
that.
gotten accustomed to doing the effort posts.
Yeah, that was cool. I think that's it. I mean, and guys, if you guys are at building anything, whenever we have these sessions, they're kind of framed as an AMA, but not really. This is really just a call where we can all discuss whatever it is that's happening. So thank you guys for standing up and sharing what you're doing with your projects. That's pretty much it for today. Thanks for joining, you guys all in the community. It's always great to see you here. And then if you want to play anything back, just take a peek at the recording on YouTube. And good luck with everything that you're building, and onward into the Ampleverse here. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks.
Absolutely. Thanks.